And especially when there's differing opinions on that between spouses. So one thing that we do is we have like he, she money. So we have separate bank accounts. Welcome to Our Two Cents, a podcast about money, real life, and the decisions that shape both. Welcome to episode 2 of the Our Two Cents podcast. And today we're talking about money mindsets. So these are the beliefs that couples bring into their relationships and how they show up. And we're going to discuss today some things that you can do to maybe shift those mindsets. So in the last 10 years or so, the couples we've met with, the individuals we've worked with, I think the biggest hurdle, in my opinion, is mindset when it comes to money. It's not how it's spent. I mean, that plays a part of it, but it really is how you think about money. What are your thoughts?
I agree 100%. So it's not so much the things that you'd be thinking about, like the budgeting, or you can't spend money on this or on that, but it's the underlying mindset, right? It's the way you think about money and the way I think about money. And
Yeah.
we've come from two different backgrounds. And this, I mean, every couple out there, it doesn't matter if you are married to somebody from the same country, it could be somebody from a different country. It's the same, right? If you've been raised in a household of affluence versus somebody that might not have had those things, you're going to have different viewpoints on money.
Yeah, for sure. I would say like generational beliefs. So, as a child, what did you hear growing up? Like, what did your parents say? Did you hear phrases like, well, we don't have enough money for that? Or, that's just too expensive for us. And so your mindset is shaped around everything you want to attain or that you wanted as a child was always out of reach. Or on the flip side, maybe you grew up in a family where you were never told no. And so you're living a lifestyle now where you're not telling yourself no or implementing delayed gratification. And instead, you're immediately purchasing things that you maybe shouldn't be or maybe outside of
I
the
agree.
scope of your earnings. And so you've grown up with these very solid mindsets that you don't even realize, like as you deal with money day to day, but these things that are playing in the back of your head that you may have heard of it as a child or things you heard your parents say play a huge part in how you approach it, not in adulthood, but also in your marriage as well.
Yeah, and I can add on to that, right? In addition to what Brittany's just said, there's also, like, I know for myself, like, you might be saying, I want to provide for my kids things that I never had,
Oh, yeah.
right? And so oftentimes people that we've coached to who have kids, they end up going out and buying their kids lots of nice things, even when the quote unquote budget or spending plan doesn't actually make wiggle room for those purchases. Another thing with the household and the way you were brought up, like I grew up in a household where we never spoke about money.
Oh, yeah.
So we just never touched on money. I knew my mom and my dad worked and they provided for us, but we never had discussions around money or anything like that. It was just, okay, they work, we ask for stuff, they end up buying the stuff for us, whether or not they could afford it. I don't know, but that was just how I was raised.
Yeah, I think that could be a struggle in relationships and in marriage is the difference, like we were talking about the generational thoughts of money, but also how were you reared? I mean, even for the two of us, we came from two very different households, obviously in different countries, but the way money's talked about in South Africa is different than the way it was talked about around me. I mean, I had a checking account when I was 16, a credit card when I was 18, like at the time, checkbooks. I knew how to balance a checkbook and write a check and all these things, foundational things when it came to money management that you weren't
I had
introduced to.
no idea, guys. So I got my first bank card. I think I was in my 20s. I didn't know how to use a bank card. I remember moving over to Europe, right? I went over as an exchange student when I was in my third year of university. And I remember going to the bank and signing up and getting a credit card. First time. I don't know why they gave it to me, but
That was
I
your
got
first
one.
credit card?
First one
Oh,
ever.
I didn't realize that.
And I spent money on this card, but I never thought, oh yeah, how am I going to pay this people back? I bought a plane ticket. I bought stuff for my friends, but I had no idea. Fortunately, I had a scholarship, and so I was able to pay it with that. But the thought never actually hit me, like, wait up, like, you hold up, like, there's going to be the repayment factor.
It's a loan.
It's a loan.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I was like, oh, this is great. 20-year-old kid in Europe being given, like, I think it was like 5,000 euro credit limit at the time, which is a lot of money.
Not even from your like home country did
No,
you have a credit
I
card.
could have bounced. Obviously, I paid the money back, right? But yeah, I had no idea how to
Wow.
manage money.
Yeah, completely different. And so in marriage and in relationships, I think the things that you see often when it comes to money and mismanagement of money is like ignorance is bliss. I'm telling you, this is the number one thing I see over and over again is people just don't want to look at the bank statement. Like they don't want to come to terms with how they're spending their money, what they're spending it on, how much money they're making. Majority of people you ask, you say how much money you make, they can give you what their gross salary
Yeah.
is, without deducting taxes and all those things. But the majority of people don't actually know how much money is coming into their bank account biweekly, monthly, however you get
Yeah.
paid. And that is a foundation for everything.
100%. And then in addition to that, they don't know what they're spending their money
Yeah.
on, right?
Yeah.
So you ask, like, so what's coming in? They might be able to give you a ballpark, but what's going out, they don't know. Like,
Yeah.
have you done an audit? Have you checked to see what you're spending your money on? And quite often the answer is no.
Right. This is going to date us maybe a little bit. I don't know. Another mindset I've seen often too is like the YOLO, I deserve it mindset, is like, oh, I've had a hard day at work. And so I'm going to do like retail therapy and especially when there's differing opinions on that between spouses. So one thing that we do is we have like she money. So we have separate bank accounts that we still have visibility to,
Yeah.
but we transfer money from our main bank account to those separate bank accounts each week or paycheck? Each week, yeah. To have money to spend separately, maybe like we're buying gifts for each other, or I want to go out with the girlfriends or get a manicure or whatever it may be. So we have money that is specifically ours to spend on things. But when it comes to spending the household money, and there's a big difference in how it is approached regarding that, like, I deserve it, I'm going to go buy myself a new bag or shoes or whatever, that can cause a lot of issues.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, to add into the he-she money, I think that has been a game changer for us. So you can spend your money on whatever you'd like. And the same over here, right? It's just, this is my quote-unquote spending money. And I think another factor is it's not, oh, you make more than me or I make more than you, so we get different amounts, right? Because I've seen that too, where one spouse is working and he or she feels, I'm the one going to work, I'm the one putting in the time, so therefore I should be making a lot more, or I should be allowed to spend as much as I want without asking for permission.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to set yourself up for success that way, because the two are one, right? Like,
Sure.
this is our money, these are our goals, this is our family. And I think that's helped us because, we get our weekly little stipend or whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, it's just we've got other bigger goals, which our collective funds goes towards.
Right. And as you're mentioning, having visibility to the bank accounts and having each of our spending money is another thing that shows up in relationships and marriages is secret spending. And that is so damaging and detrimental to financial futures, to trust, and a host of issues. But that is something that can really put a halt on your financial goals and, making financial progress is not having visibility to bank accounts and one spouse or partner participating in secret spending and spending household money on things that aren't necessary.
Yeah,
for sure.
I agree.
Another thing that I think we've seen in our conversations is like denial, the socioeconomic status change. So maybe going from a higher paying job to a lower paying job and how that impacts the relationship. Have you seen any of that?
Yeah, I've definitely seen that, where there's been some form of change. And even with ourselves, right? When we had you become a stay-at-home mom for a season,
Sure.
right? Like, we could so easily have just maintained the lifestyle in order to project a certain level of income and just like the things that we were doing, but that would have cost us. And I see that quite often times with people too, where maybe a spouse loses a job or they get a demotion or there's just certain changes, there's health things that happen, right? But they continue to do things like, I deserve this, right? And so they're denying the change. And as a result of that, they continue to spend at a level that they shouldn't be. And as a result, they're digging the hole of debt.
For sure. So let's talk about, if you connect with any one of these experiences that we've talked about with your spouse or your partner, what's next? So you have this mindset, maybe you surround yourself in guilt and shame around your spending, or you grew up with these generational phrases of, I can't spend money on that, or it's too expensive. So what's the first step in really shifting that mindset? Since, as we said, that's the foundation of your financial journey and your personal finances and moving forward, is making sure that you have a healthy mindset around finances.
Yeah, I think when it comes to that, is it's okay to pause and to know where you are.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where I am, but this doesn't define who I am. So your net worth or your current financial situation doesn't determine your future. Right. So I think that's the first thing. I think also, in addition to that, if you are married, to get onto the same page as your spouse. Like, I shouldn't have goals aside from, yes, I should have goals for my life, but you should have your own goals. But collectively, what are we working towards?
Yeah.
And I think when you identify what the goals is for the household, when you start thinking and asking questions like, why do I think about money the way that I do?
Mm-hmm.
Why are other people succeeding in money, but I'm not? It could be you're listening to that voice, or you just don't have the exposure, but that's where this podcast fits in. And there's lots of other great resources out there.
Sure.
Start exposing yourself to these financial concepts, and you'll start to quickly realize that it's not as complicated as what you might think.
Yeah, and some people will say to me, "Well, I'm just bad with money." I'm like, "No, it's not that you're bad with money. It's that you were never taught. You were never exposed. You were never exposed personally to these concepts. And even though, as you've mentioned before, you've managed multi-million dollar business budgets and revenue, that you didn't know how to manage your own money." And so I think that's a mindset shift that's vital, is recognizing that you're not bad with money. You just haven't learned it yet. Just like you haven't learned a concept in school or in your job, is you've got to start somewhere. As you were saying, the resources that you can tap into that can really help lay that foundation.
Yeah, another thing that I've seen affect people is shame and guilt,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So
for
they've
sure.
on the verge of bankruptcy, or they just have so much debt that they don't know what to do and they feel guilty. It's okay, guys. There's lots of people in the same situation as what you are, or that have been in the same situation. They've gotten their way out, right? So you
Hmm.
don't have to feel guilty about it. I feel like just like own where you are, where you're adults,
Yeah, acknowledge it.
acknowledge it, right?
Hmm.
Because if you're not going to acknowledge it, it's just going to compound and it's going to get worse.
Sure.
So acknowledge where you are and then start putting things in place, even if it's one thing. So all of a sudden you're going to look at your bank statements, or you're not going to eat out every day with your work colleagues, or you're not going to do certain things. I know I'm talking about the not.
Hmm.
In the start, you might not have to do stuff, but eventually you'll get to a place where you can do the things
right.
that you want to do. But it takes a bit of discipline. Same with weight loss in different other areas of your life. You're going to have to know where you are, and then you're going to have to change. And usually the first part might be hard, but once you get into the rhythm, right, eventually you get to a place where it becomes natural and becomes a part of your life, and it just becomes easier.
Yeah, I love what you said about like start small, like start by actually looking at your bank statements. I'm telling you, this sounds so foundational, but it is so not happening. It's
Yeah.
so missed. And people just would rather deny it or rather just ignore it and say, I'll address it when I need to pay, my statement at the end of the month. Starting small and realizing that by doing that, you're taking progress. And even if it's 1% every single day, that 1% compounds. It's the compound effect, and that your steps start getting a little bit larger and a little bit larger, and you're progressing. And progressing is far better than denial and just ignorance is bliss and not looking at it. And just you will never reach your financial goals if you continue with the mindset of ignorance is bliss and I'm just going to deal with it when I can.
Yeah. So if I were to ask you this question, right, what habits have you seen people that we've actually helped with their finances?
Mhm.
What are some of the habits that they've actually implemented that you've seen them set themselves up for success?
Oh, I would say first and foremost for couples, having a defined financial meeting. It doesn't have to be like this dreary numbers. We can't spend anything in our lives. And as you get to know us more, you'll realize that a big thing for us is defining what your rich life is. So there's a book that we absolutely love that talks about this and talks about how your rich life doesn't mean you're wealthy necessarily. Like, your rich life is you're able to accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Yeah, it's not the $1 million in the bank necessarily.
Yeah, it's being able to go on a vacation once a year. It's being able to put enough savings aside to buy your child a car. It's being able to buy a nice piece of clothing because that's what you really enjoy. So that is first and foremost, is having a financial meeting, or, make it fun, make it a date night, grill out, I don't know, do something that you enjoy doing together at home and look at the numbers together. Because like you said, you have to be on the same page to be able to move forward. And then I would say come up with goals. So once you recognize what the numbers are, and you have an idea of what's coming in and what's going out, because you have to know those two numbers. So the second thing is laying out what are our financial goals. Maybe you each individually have one or two that you share with each other, and then you talk about what's our goals as a family. We've laid out, and we have in our bathroom, because we pass it to go to the closet every day, we have a list of goals that we want to achieve as a family financially and beyond. And I think it's very important too to have those very plain and clear. It might sound silly when I say like put it up somewhere, put it in your bathroom, in your kitchen, somewhere where you see it every day. But there is truth behind seeing that really helps you remember that that's what you're working towards. Tell a little story real quick. I was having a conversation about this the other day. We've had quite a few friends that have moved further out of town because we live in an area where there's actually some land left. A lot of the places around here are pretty built out. And we live in like a master plan, very typical suburban community. And there are times, where I get like Zillow emails or emails about houses. And it's so tempting to be like, oh, we could like sell this and move further out and have a little bit of land. And I was quickly reminding myself as I was having a conversation with a friend about this, that that's not part of our goals. That's not part of our family goals. Would it be nice to have more land for the kids to run on? Absolutely. Would it be nice to have more space? I don't know, because that means there's more space to clean. But it was a reminder for me in this conversation that you have to have those goals in front of you. Obviously, buying and selling a house is a huge decision. But then it also kind of puts you in a mindset of it could be jealousy or this desire of like, oh, I don't have enough. And again, like when you check yourself on that and you're like, okay, but that's not my goal. My goal right now is not to have more land. My goal are these other things for our family, to be able to travel more, to be able to create more memories as a family. So
just something on there before we hop off the goals thing. I think it's very important, or at least for us, right, to expose our kids to this too.
Oh yeah, so absolutely.
Like even like he's able to write, Ed is still getting there, but when we first put up our vision board, he put up certain goals, and it's amazing just the things that he wants to accomplish, and that yes, financial, but other things too. And I think this is allowing him to cast vision and to think beyond himself, because that's big for us too. It's like, it's great you can have a big bank balance, but if you're not impacting the lives of other people, then what's the point, right? And so I think for our kids, like he's got certain goals of certain amounts of money, and one that really touched my heart is that he wants to bless other people, including mommy and daddy, right? Because they see what we do for them, and they value and appreciate it. And so I think that's great.
It's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
When your kids, if you have kids, when they see that, you establishing that foundation, like I said, having the meetings, setting the goals, it does pass down into the next generation.
Yeah, another thing that I just think is important is that both spouses have visibility to the numbers.
Oh, yeah, that's huge. Yeah, as we were talking about earlier with secret spending, some people like to have separate bank accounts. We are very big proponents of having one bank account to pay everything out of because it just limits the possibility of money being spent somewhere where you haven't agreed upon it. We also have a limit of, if we have a big expenditure, if I want to spend a lot of money on something or, and vice versa, we have a discussion about it. And, in your relationship or marriage, it might be a certain dollar amount. For us, it's kind of situational, but that's also something to take into consideration as you talk about visibility is just open communication when it comes to spending.
And it's not about control, right? It's not that Brittany's going to come to me, can I please spend money on this or that? We know what our goals are, and we've built a buffer. So more often than not, it's going to be go ahead and do it. And the same on my side, if I come to her and I say, hey, I want to get this particular thing, and sometimes she might say, do you really need it? And vice versa, right? Like if we've got goals, right? Or maybe we can pause, like there's a piece of software. There's a software that I want to buy, but I'm like, I'm not going to use it for 2 or 3 weeks. So maybe I can hold off on that.
Yeah, we keep each other in check.
We keep each other in check. Yeah, there's definitely accountability, but it's good and it's healthy.
So as we wrap up, what would you tell a couple who feels overwhelmed right now with money?
There's hope, right? As I mentioned early on in the episode, there are lots of people in the situation that you find yourself in, or that have been in the situation that you currently find yourself in, that has gotten out of that particular place. All you need, to be honest, is if you can win in the area of your mindset, that's the first area that you need to get victory in. Once you start changing the way you think about money, once you identify why you spend in a particular way and what guardrails you can put in place, that's, I would say, 80% of the way to success.
It's the biggest battle.
And once you've got that implemented, you then go and put systems in place. You set up a spending plan. You've got financial goals. You start automating your finances, which we'll touch on in future episodes in this podcast. But once you've got the mindset area one, you are there. So again, guys, hope, right? You just need to be able to see it. if you can see yourself getting out of this particular position, you can, right? But it's going to take a bit of change. It might be uncomfortable initially, but just remember that there's a bigger why, right? If your why is bigger than your current circumstances, you're going to do what you need to do. You're going to put in the reps to get to the place where you're not going to be in this position any longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So as we end this podcast today, it's time for our 2 cents. So Brittany, what's the correct way to load a dishwasher?
I would need a visual for this. Like the cups go on top. There's a system to it, right? So that everything fits nicely. The plates align or the bowls align. So you put the plates first in the bowls, or we use a lot of bowls. So then it would just be like a row full of bowls, but they're all facing the right way. And then I did learn for utensils to not put them all the same way, because then they'll the spoons will like stick to each other so they don't get washed. So I like alternate. Some of the utensils go down and some of the utensils go up.
Guys, that's news to me. So yeah, you never told to learn something new.
You just throw everything in there, right?
I just toss it all in. So yeah,
There's like
10
no
years,
method,
almost
right?
10 years into marriage, and I'm still yet to get it right.
Any kind of method, any kind of you're a numbers guy. I would think there would be some sort of
Fit as many
system.
things in as possible.
That is true. It is quite overloaded many times.
Get the job done, right? Do it right the first time.
Well, we'll see you next time on the Our 2 Cents podcast.